Hi everyone, it's Clinton from Home Drafting Design back here at 2 Ontario Street in Bowmanville, Ontario, taking a look at our two-car garage addition that is happening on the side of our heritage building right at the corner of Wellington and Ontario Street. Behind me you can see that there's some framing that's gone up. The last time we were here, all we had was some foundation in the ground, so why don't we go inside and see how things are framing up. So for whatever reason this year, our additions that have been garage add-ons to buildings have been very popular. And not only have they been super popular, but a key feature has been super popular on all these builds, which is the idea of having a pass-through garage. So in this application, you can see that a garage door is actually installed on both the back of the building as well as the front, which allows you access out into the backyard with any type of lawnmowers or any farming or gardening equipment that needs to go out that way, but also gives you a full access if you want to bring a vehicle right through the garage and into the backyard. So on our last trip to this job site, all we had in place was our foundation walls. Now you can see that we've got some framing up and we can kind of start to see things taking shape. So the space I'm standing in here today is actually the breezeway that's going to be the connection point between the house and the garage. But of course right now, we don't have much of a connection space because we got a brick wall over here. The intention will be, because behind this wall is our laundry room that exists right now, is to cut this open and actually have a pass through our laundry room right into this sort of mudroom breezeway that's going to be here, so that the client can now utilize this space as their entryway on a day-to-day basis from the garage. So after we leave our breezeway, we step into our two-car garage. Now, originally the client wanted to build a 3-car garage on this application, but unfortunately due to heritage and bylaw, we were restricted on how wide and how large we could make it. For this job, as we mentioned before, there's 2 doors out the front and 1 out the back to allow for that pass-through into the backyard. And above me we have our steel beam, which we'll talk about in a second. But what I really wanted to direct your attention to was our steel column that's over here, that's kind of sitting out here in the corner. Now, last time we were here, we had a foundation wall built and this sort of lone footing that was just sitting over here. And this is the reason why it had to be there. Our floor system up above needed to be opened up so that we could bring our stairs upstairs. But to do that, we needed something that was going to support the corner of the floor system. So in this application, we've put a footing down below the garage pad, and the steel column runs up to support the wood structure up above. And the wood structure up above, of course, is our storage area, which we'll go up to right now and take a look at. We can see some of the ways that it's been framed up there. So for this project, we have 2 different styles of roofs being constructed. One over top of the breezeway and one directly over top of my head. Over the breezeway, we've opted for a conventional framing, and above me, you can see that there are actually trusses that are installed to create the roof structure. Now, the reason why we went with a conventional framing over top of the breezeway, even though it originally was going to be trusses, was due to the fact that we had to change the pitch of the roof. The existing pitch that we were coming off from the old roof was actually about a 7/12 pitch and would have been very difficult to try and mimic using trusses. So instead, what the contractor opted to do was actually conventionally frame using rafters and a collar tie. So in that type of application, we have rafters running down from a center ridge beam or a center ridge rafter, and usually a collar tie that ties across, also functioning as the ceiling structure for the drywall to hang off of. By doing this, we were able to match the existing roof pitch exactly and carry that line right across from the house, keeping it seamless. So we mentioned that there was some conventional framing that was done on the breezeway, and the rest of this roof is actually being done with a truss structure. So as you can see above my head here, there's actually 2 what's referred to as girder trusses that run down the length of this roof, and all of our trusses tie into it. Now, the reason why they've done this is it allows us to have that spanning onto all the exterior walls. We're supporting on the 2 side walls as well as at the very bottom of the walls on the end. And by doing this, it keeps all of our support off the center with the trusses. Now, in conventional framing, we don't always have that opportunity, but in this application, because we've done most of the framing with trusses, all of our fill-in structure, like what we've done here for the dormer, can actually be done in a conventional framing. So in this application, you can see that we have a 2x8 as our valley as well as for our ridge, and then all of our rafters have been done with 2x6s. And this allows us to tie into the trusses and use that to support the structure in, as well as being able to open this all up into the center of it and give us as much head height into the upstairs as possible. Now, this space itself is not going to be used for anything but storage by the clients, but with this opened up ceiling structure that we've created here, we could actually use this space as habitable space. Now, there are limitations. If you've seen in some of the previous videos that I've talked about with basements, that we need to have that 6'11". In second stories and stories that are above the ground level, there are different restrictions and different rules that apply to it. We still need 6'11" for the most part so that we can have that head height. However, in an upstairs level or anything that's above grade, anything that is above 1.4 meters is actually considered habitable space. So even though in a basement, this is where we would be cutting off our habitable space, up here in this loft, this is actually where our habitable space begins. So there's actually quite a bit of usable space up here that if they wanted to convert this into a living space afterwards, could be done. So for this project, we had to install a steel beam to support the floor structure up above. Because of the length of the garage, it is about 25 feet long, we had to install a 12-inch beam. And what the client didn't want to see was a massive beam sticking out of the ceiling. So how do we do that with a steel beam? Well, we can flush mount a steel beam into wood framing just like we do an LVL or any other type of wood built-up beam. In this application, however, what we do, as you can see above me, is we have the steel beam, then we pack it full of, in this case, 2x12s that are ripped down to the right size so they would fit within the webbing. They're bolted into the actual beam, so it all becomes one unified piece, and then the joists are then hung off of the pieces of wood that have been scabbed on the inside. So that gives you some idea of where we're at with this garage addition happening here at 2 Ontario Street in Bowmanville. Stay tuned for next time when we'll be back here to take a look at it when it's all completed. Look forward to seeing you then.